Hey, Matt from Hidden Machine here. About 2 months ago, I was going through my Steam library. I was trying to find a few games to uninstall so I could make room for a bigger game that I wanted to install. I think it was Baldur's Gate 3. But during that session, I saw in my library a game that I did not have any memory of downloading. I didn't even know where I heard of it, I didn't remember installing it. It was the demo for Divine Frequency. So, out of curiosity, I booted it up and I was immediately enthralled by the atmosphere of this game. It has a very certain thing it's doing with its pacing, lighting, the level design, these liminal spaces, and how you navigate them. All of it really connected with me in this really intimately familiar way that was disturbing because it felt so similar to nightmares that I've had throughout my life. Not that I suffer from recurring nightmares, but if I do have a nightmare, it often follows a very similar sort of plot, I'll say, as navigating through the early sections of this demo. And so I decided I had to find out more about this game, what's going on with it, where did it come from, who is making it. I reached out to the dev team online and was able to secure an interview with two members of the Divine Frequency team. We've got Pablo, who's the lead writer and lore master, and Clay, who is the lead artist. Now, throughout this interview, you'll hear the devs reference another dev named Genghis or Genghis Khan. He is the person who started this project originally. It was a total conversion for Doom, and since then it's been slated to become a full commercial release, standing on its own. And a lot's been done. You may have seen the old demo before the total conversion project was kind of transformed into this full standalone game. The newest version of the demo released on October 27th, so that's the demo that we're talking about in this interview, and you can watch this video if you haven't played the game. There's not any major spoilers that I think are gonna, ruin your enjoyment of it, but I would say if this looks at all appealing to you, you've got to check out the demo for Divine Frequency. It's a very promising project, and I'm very excited to have been able to talk to some of the team and see how they do what they do. And hopefully you find it interesting as well. So let's get into the interview with Clay and Pablo from the Divine Frequency team. So if you would can I have you each introduce yourself and say what you do on the game?
My name is Pablo Lamprea, also known as Artistical. I am writer and lore master for Divine Frequency.
And I'm Clay. I'm a lead artist, technical artist, a texture designer, monsters, but lead art, but mostly. That's what I do for the last 3 or so years now.
Cool. I don't know where I learned about this game. I had the demo downloaded for a couple weeks and didn't install it, and I don't know where I heard of it. I didn't see it in my search history. It was there, and I'd so like earlier last week, I was like, oh, what the hell is this? I gotta play this. So I installed it, and it's just like I was immediately hooked on the game. It's very cryptic, but not in a way that was like it just didn't feel overly hostile toward the player in that sense, where it was like you gave me enough, to feel engaged and equipped to move forward, even though I had no idea what I was doing.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
that right there. Had no idea what I was doing. That's Divine Frequency.
Okay.
yeah, that's
kind of the whole
it
point.
has to do a lot with a lot of stuff that in lost sense.
No, it's interesting that you point out that you didn't feel like things were overly hostile because the last demo that we had put out before decisions for going commercial and making a standalone game, it started rather hostile. You kind of got your weapons, you were already slightly upgraded, you were in the middle of the game, and some of the monsters were just basically unbeatable, and there was not nearly as good signposting, and people were completely lost, and people still loved it. Maybe more, maybe less, depending on who you ask. But it's so interesting to hear that people have very different reasons on the same theme to like the game, and that it's weird. It's weird.
Yeah.
It's a weird game, man.
Yeah.
How would you describe the game to someone who hasn't yet played it or hasn't seen the demo or anything?
I will describe it as a lot of different ways to describe it show up, but I will describe it as a surreal experience into a post-apocalyptic world.
I sometimes refer to it as scary mushroom horror trip experience. Bravo. or like little things like that. When people ask what the game is about, I always go, and then I look at my wife and I'm like, how am I supposed to describe this game? So it's kind of horror-esque. It's definitely horror in theme, but it's not actually meant to go after you and scare you. It doesn't use cheap jump scares. You know, it can get really combat-y. It's got these almost Dark Soulsian boss fights. So it's a lot of things at once. But what it really is the ill mind of a developer who gets to stay in his bedroom developing the game.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's just
that's true.
craziness.
That's true.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But survival horror works because there's a lot of survival elements. There's going to be crafting and stuff like that. Survival horror shooter, shocker FPS.
Yeah, the survival stuff caught me off guard. It is like, I feel like that too. It's like it's difficult, but very fair in my experience so far.
Mhm.
I get turned off by those games a lot of the time. So this found a good middle ground for me as someone who's not like super versed in that genre, you know?
I'm thinking of Stalker. Yeah,
Yeah.
that one. And me,
Yeah,
I was like, when I was 15, sure, but I don't have the concentration levels for this anymore.
Yeah, actually, the taste for Stalker is one of the things that grabbed me first from the game. I've always been a big fan, and
Mhm.
well, it shares a bit of that DNA.
Yeah, that's what got me about Stalker is I want to play it because it looks cool, and that's before the mods.
Yeah.
It looked so cool at the time. But yeah, it's definitely an influence. You can see there's obviously some Bloodborne influence.
Definitely.
We try to move away from the Doom centric stuff, with the GZDoom engine. There's still just some Doomisms you're not going to be able to get rid of from the engine and everything. But really, describing the game is 3 or 4 people taking turns as to how they see it, and then let the end viewer, put that all together into one scrambled eggs.
Totally.
Yeah.
It's hard to describe it. It's just a weird game, but it's like a fever dream.
I'd agree with that.
Yeah, the idea of the surreal experience has to do a lot, of course, with the atmosphere. And I think the atmosphere just captures immediately. I mean,
Genghis does a top-notch job
Yeah.
designing a really oppressive atmosphere. The
Yeah.
sound work in this game is amazing.
yeah, it's an incredible feat to craft so good an atmosphere that it really doesn't matter much what the game's throwing at you. You just want to keep drinking it in.
Yeah, I mean that was definitely my experience with it. I've had nightmares that looked and felt very similar to this game, and like after I got maybe 20 minutes into the demo, I got stuck on something and I put it down for a while, and I went to bed, and like the next day I just like couldn't stop thinking about these hallways and these corridors and like just the vibe of it. And then I did eventually get past where I was stuck, and then I just kept encountering like new areas that they just have such a strong atmosphere. Like that's really what drew me in. That's what made me curious to talk to the folks working on the game, just kind of in working on the atmosphere here, because it is the visual atmosphere, the sound design, and everything, but also the writing and the character design too are large parts of that. Like what are some of the influences that you each are kind of bringing to your respective roles on the project?
Yeah, I'm mostly a Lovecraftian fan. I mean, I think it's a bit obvious. But I take from a lot of different sources, like speculative fiction from the wave of the 50s, 80s horror, mostly literary influenced because, of course, I'm in charge of writing, so of course it will be a lot of literary influences. But I think one of the key aspects is always a keen awareness of how dream logic works. So if the idea is presenting a surreal world, then of course I have to be very, very aware of how dreams actually work. So that's something that I keep bringing in to when I'm presenting a situation. And that's something that Genghis, of course, is also very, very keenly aware. He has an incredibly intuitive grasp on how to present a series of events from the really macro general stuff to the specific details. And that's part of what I do. They like bringing his ideas and trying to like put him in line. And to do that, I bring all the literary influences I have, all the horror influences I have, all the sci-fi influences I have, even from tabletop RPGs, all the kind of stories that you have, like loose stories, short stories everywhere. Lovecraft has short stories. 50 sci-fi has short stories. 80s horror were like small stories. So how do we string them along in a way that it keeps consistent with dream logic, but also with the linearity of a game of a game?
For me, I guess my experiences were they're really just my inspirations will stem from my experiences. Put that weirdly. I just started using Blender. I wanted to make some projects and GZDoom free stuff and everything, but I kind of started focusing on sculpting creatures. Um, do not know what it is, but this all started because I had a nightmare for me. That's the whole, I had a nightmare and I had just enough Blender skill that I thought I could make what I saw in my nightmare because I wanted to turn it into a sprite for a game or just to give away. I made something horrible. Everyone loved it. I loved that everyone loved it. So I made a lot more horrible things. And eventually, everyone made suggestions for me to take part in their horrible stuff. So this is just the latest edition of
Really cool.
Clay is doing horrible things. And so me, a big part of the motivation and inspiration, inspiration would be Silent Hill, H.R. Geiger, definitely some Lovecraftian stuff, a few sparse games that I've played along the way and everything, but mostly I go for any chance to do some body horror or something non-human, so I go for that. And if I get that Silent Hill incredibly spooky, dirty, grungy vibe or whatever, I'm good. I love it, Yeah. I feel like I'm perfect with it. So absolute inspiration for me is just the horror genre, and shocking people is inspiring to me. But art style and everything, I really have to hand it to Genghis. So the way we develop the monsters in this game is we're in voice chat. Development for Divine Frequency is mostly just voice chat between myself and Genghis. And I've got Blender open, he's looking at my screen, and he's telling me what to do. So I always say, your will, my hands. Like he's making me make stuff, and he's taking my advice along the way and letting me dictate large portions of the design and stuff like that. So my inspiration is him telling me what to do a lot.
Yeah.
He does it a lot. He likes that.
Yeah, it seems to be working. So is the entire team working remotely?
Yeah, I don't think there's anyone near each other. You've got Art here in South America, me and Genghis are in North America, and there's a good mention is another user named Insane Gazebo. Not sure of his real name, and but he's been contributing tons of textures that he develops through Substance Designer. Does a wonderful job of it, and he's really plowing through the list. So he's becoming a huge portion of the artwork in the game. You can't look at a screenshot or being in a room without seeing his work. So he's also, but those are the main contributors. We've got, freelancers, musicians and stuff like that. But the main contributors are myself, Art with the lore, always bouncing ideas back, and Insane Gazebo doing artwork. That's the whole load is about 4 people.
Wow. So how long have each of you been involved in the project?
Art's recently, less than a year.
Yeah. I joined around October last year, so it's been a year and
about
a
a
bit.
year. A year and a bit. Okay.
A year and a bit, yeah.
And myself, I joined before it was ever intended where there were any designs on a commercial game. The mod was using assets borrowed from Blood, Doom, all kinds of stuff. And Genghis was so passionate about his project that he was paying me for sprites out of his pocket, just for a mod that he was going to give away for free. He's super passionate about this game. It's literally all he does. But after like 6, or no, maybe not 6 or 7 months, somewhere around there or whatever, I was like, have you thought about going commercial with this? Because I just finally got around to playing this instead of just making assets for you. And what the hell? Like, what is this game, man? Like, what is going on here? And it took me and another, like, a good 6 or 8 months or something like that to talk him into it. So that puts me at about 3 years. Long-winded way to say about 3 years.
No, that's good, because I was curious. I saw a video from August of 2022 showing an earlier build of the game that did have a lot of the placeholder assets and stuff.
Probably alpha beta gamer video. Easy one to come across.
Yeah. I love that channel. I find out about a lot of cool games through there.
Oh yeah.
But the improvements from that version, like so much of like what I think, I enjoyed about the core of the game was definitely evident in that video, but just the presentation and polish of it drastically improved in a very short amount of time.
So that's a pretty funny little story. Is the reason we were so terrified of actually going commercial with it, even though we really, really, really wanted to, was because he just took assets when he was making the mod and he just put stuff into work, different art styles, different things, and he made it this whole kind of junk vibe and everything. So we had counted and it was something like over 1,000 things that would have to be replaced, and I'd have to do all new monsters, and it was very overwhelming. So I think this is just the result of I don't often call myself an artist, but when the same person or the same two people keep making stuff to replace what they saw before, no matter how much of a one-to-one remake you try to do, you're going to end up stuck with your own style, the kind of shading you do and stuff. And it was crazy to watch it just all come together because we prioritized the order of assets we were going to make, so that way everything already made would start to change shape, and that was a big part of it. We finished all of the props, like the little bottles, all the little stuff around the pickups, the ammo and stuff like that. I think we finished them all in a week, which
Yeah, it
was like
insane.
we were putting out so many every day, doing so much good work. And for like a good 4 or 5 months there, it basically became a new game in a matter of like 6 months.
The effort from the team was insane. I mean, I will wake up in the morning because I tend to go early to bed and check on the development Discord, and it was like 500 messages pending because everybody kept posting the thing and asking the thing, and Genghis kept saying, "Okay, now we need this, and now we need that," and iterations, and eventually, yeah. I mean, it was breakneck speed of
It feels kind of
talented
fast for
people.
some people. Like for example, with a monster, and a monster I can finish a monster all the way to game ready, waiting on Genghis to program and apply it in the game world. I can have sometimes a model in about 2 days done for him ready to go, and other times it can take a week and a half, 2 weeks, or something like that. So I don't know how fast that is in terms of normal character development, but I guess considering it's sculpting, and then a lot of people think that I do overpainting at the end and stuff, it seems like it's pretty fast to them. So this is a pretty
It is.
common response
It
when
is
it
very
comes
fast.
to projects that I've been involved with. That you'd be surprised at how fast everyone can work when they're super motivated.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
is true.
Yeah, it's crazy. I saw it on Elementalism, the same thing, which is the project that led me to this one, by the way. I worked on. I don't know if you've heard of Elementalism, there, Matt.
No.
Okay, it's just a large map set. Mostly vanilla Doom gameplay, has one added weapon, but it's just a big, beautiful map set using a lot of the really updated features at the time in the GZDoom engine. Utilizing a lot of advanced architecture and stuff for that at the time. But someone had been I was introduced to Ball through this project, and he actually recommended me to Genghis right before I was about to actually quit all of this stuff. Like I was done with developing games. I tried to start a few commercial projects, and people would just quit. And I was this close to just quitting and going and moving on back to music or something. And I got this message, and then now I'm here stuck doing this.
Stuck, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, no, it's good to know. It's good to know that you're seeing it, like that you still feel that same core of the game and it looks better, because it is exactly what we were going for and exactly what we were worried we were going to do. We were worried that we were going to take away that romance that the user can have with that environment by trying to recreate it. We were hoping that it wasn't just chaos and kismet that was stitching the whole thing together. And yeah, yay, we didn't turn it into a piece of crap.
So the game is being made in GZDoom, you said, which for anyone who doesn't know, that's like a modified version of something called ZDoom, which is it's basically like
Source port.
Yeah, it's a source port of id Tech 1, which is the engine that ran Doom and Heretic and a lot of those classic games. I've seen a lot of really good GZDoom games come out in recent years. Like I used to play a lot of Total Conversions, way back when, but with the GZDoom stuff, I mean, you can do things that Doom was never intended to do. But what are some of the, maybe if you can speak to this at all, what are some of the advantages and maybe disadvantages of working in that engine?
Okay, I'll start with the disadvantages. The disadvantages are extreme limitations. There's no physics. There's no collision based on a model's shape or even a capsule. It's a radius bound square. It's really 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 simplistic. Post processing effects are quite limited. There is a lot about it. The map detail can't go too high because it'll get rendered, I believe, on the CPU, but don't quote me, it won't go on the GPU at all. So very detailed maps that don't even hold up to today's detail are next to impossible. Some people can pull it off barely. If I'll name drop Total Chaos, they did some wonderful work there. They used a lot of models and fake collisions, so you don't get a lot of really cool effects. You can't like shoot a prop and then a bullet puff show up on that prop. It's not very advanced. And with the GPL license, we can't publish to console.
Mm.
No matter what we wanted to do, if we wanted to build this game and port it to console, it'd have to be remade in Unreal or Unity or Godot or something like that. One of the huge advantages is making environments for GZDoom or Doom in general. There's a really powerful editor called Ultimate Doom Builder, and it allows prototyping and making atmospheres and levels quite quick. You can plan layouts quite quickly. Everything you do about it becomes a reflex. A good example of how great the environments can be utilized is another GZDoom game coming out, published by the studio publishing this game. It's called Age of Hell. I'm sure you've heard of it.
Mm-hmm.
Looking at those environments, that just shows the power of GZDoom. If you know how to pick and prod and poke every single hole and exploit that the engine has. Half of the most beautiful, stunning GZDoom games are just a bunch of hacks that just seem to keep working. But no, some good ones are coming out lately. Some to name a few that I really think are good. Relentless Frontier is technically fun. Like they have some pretty cool logic and some pretty cool systems going on with their weapons. Project at Absentia, it chooses this simpler tune MS Paint vibe, but it's got like this relentless, enraging kind of fun to it. Like you can basically fly. You're violent. Your weapons are insane.
Yeah.
And then there's a really good one coming out, Hellslinger. It's all hand drawn, assets and everything. That one looks pretty good. I know the one of the main devs from right when I just joined the Doom community and everything. There's a lot of really, really, really good ones coming out, and especially Disdain. Disdain is being developed on an even further forked away version of the GZDoom engine that's going to be adding ray tracing, and it's going to be moving the BSP rendering over to the GPU and various other things that are going to just make VK Doom is made for people who aren't making mods. It's basically catered to people trying to make a commercial game and stuff. So there's a surprising good amount that can be done with it, but I would say that's about most of the advantages and stuff that are relevant to my interests.
Okay, can you tell me anything about what it's like working with Hellforge Studios and just how is this project coming together?
Mostly phenomenal. I can't really name a bad thing. They've been very, very supportive. They have a network of people ready for testing, and they're actually doing diligent testing. They're not just playing the game. They're actually going around actively trying to break things, which is exactly what you want in a tester. They coordinate all of that. They've got Shannon, who's always at the helm, doing social media, printing up graphics, even the occasional meme here or there to keep the humor going. She stays on top of it. Bridgeburner, the owner of Hellforge Studios, he's been on point. He got us in San Gazebo, the texture artist. He comes in, he offers moderation services of the discords that are relevant, takes cares of events, does tweets, even provides, in some cases, when need be, some funding assistance, as per an agreement, not just some donations here or anything, but a very supportive, very good developer. It's great to have the studio owner come from the same community and same engine that you come in. You're already kind of brothers when you start out, so it's really just been kind of mano a mano, the whole time. It's just making a game with your friend, and now he's asking you how it's going and keeping up with it for you. So it's pretty
Yeah.
cool. They're good. It's a good studio. I know they're young, but I think they'll do well.
Yeah, I mean, I'm already familiar with a few of the games that they have on their roster, and I've been checking out some of the other projects on the site, and yeah, seems like a good group of people. So I have seen a roadmap online for the game, but just the demo came out just over a month ago. What are for the both of you, like, what are your immediate sort of aspirations for the project? Like, what's next on your personal checklists?
Well, that's a big one. I mean, from the writing side, it's been pretty much making the entire experience coherent. Um, there is like a huge lore background that is being written to have everything come organically inside the game. So we like the next thing on my plate will be fit that lore into whatever comes next, because there's a lot coming in, which will allow us to expand a lot into what the demo offered, of course. And well, I just have to keep writing and writing and writing how to feel the world, how to give credence to a lot of the things that happen, but always in this subtle way that is there's no exposition dumps, there's no like NPC chatting you for half an hour. Always keeping the dialogues cryptic, but not so cryptic that the person who's reading them doesn't know what's happening, right? So is keep filling the next acts, but also making the balancing act consistent, because I mean, with Genghis, this really long chats about what's the character that we want to do, inspire into a specific model or into a specific thing, because as Clay said, well, there's like nothing done inside the engine. You can just put anything and give it like a trigger for dialogue, and you can have a talking bottle. So that kind of ideas keep jumping around, and some of them might look too random at first sight, but you have to keep the entire lore in mind and say, no, that this can work. This can actually work. It doesn't matter how random, it can actually work. So that's okay. Let's put it on what comes next. How are we going to make that complete random stuff actually work? Because it's a good idea. It's completely consistent with what we're doing, but we still have to get the player there, right? I mean, we know it. We know where we're going. And the entire plan is like in our heads, it's more of a feeling thing, but okay, we have to get the player there. So it's keep going with the train of writing the stuff. And yeah, I mean, that's it. The balancing act of keeping things mysterious enough to make them enticing, but clear enough to let the player know that there's something at the end of the road, which there's a lot at the end of the road, but we'll get you there.
Okay. I'm going to try to summarize what you said. Art's whole use is like somebody who really needs somebody to filter all of the thoughts and boil it down into a refined, tasty soup. So his job is always doing the patchwork of, like I said, the ill mind of the developer. But me, from my immediate goals, we actually hit a milestone. All of the basic enemies, all of the the main roster and everything are actually done. They're actually done and implemented and everything. And now I'm working on bosses, which is lots more intensive, lots more animations. In fact, I just got a boss rigged up today. And sculpted it the day before yesterday. It was actually a really fast turnaround. We're really super happy with it because we thought it was going to take at least weeks, but I managed to do it in about a day. So that was great. But I still got to animate it up. I've been struggling with like animation retargeting, but my near windows right now are just getting this and I believe 2 or 3 other bosses. We're not fully decided on certain things near the end. So that's, up in the air as with developing anything. and really just constantly being there and fulfilling a wish for, I don't know, somebody needs a broom, or another air conditioning unit, or so it's game development, man. You get asked to make some of the stupidest stuff. Hey, like, can I have a pair of shoes? Just sitting around like, yeah, sure, let me just go make some shoes for you, man.
Yeah,
Like,
there was this huge development chat once about doing garbage. Like, okay, we need garbage, and it was like,
the
does this
garbage,
feature
man.
work? Does this trash bag work? And it was, no, I kind of needed a bit more grungy. No, I kind of needed a bit more rusty. And it was this huge debate and discussion, very healthy debate, of course, but it was this huge thing about, okay, but we need to not have the cardboards underneath the trash bag, just the trash bags and that kind of stuff. It's very silly, yeah. And
No,
actually
it's so
coming off of it,
crazy. It took
yeah,
forever.
yeah, and coming off of it, I mean, Play is kind of fortunate of having such a clear cut task list to go because I mean,
To call
dealing
me
with,
fortunate, how dare you?
because dealing with the, I mean, is in the writing side of things, we're dealing with a lot of abstract stuff, and I mean, there's things that you can't like say, okay, now we're going to do this, right? Because from the writing side, a lot of stuff depends on a lot of other stuff. So unless we actually have, for instance, a finished concept for the monster, we can't start imagining where does it come from, where does it look like, yeah. But also at the same time, if Gengi says to me, okay, I kind of need a story for a new monster or a new creature or whatever, okay, I can come up with something, right? That can inform the character creation process, but it will also, I mean, with the limitations of the engine and all of that, it will lose a lot of what was written. So it's always a feedback loop between what's being done and what's being written. And the thing is that since writing is a bit of a more just words, right? And there's a lot of weight into words, but it's nothing visual. It's a lot of your imagination, like creating the stuff inside your head. It becomes a bit of a more obscure process. So, I mean, sure, I say striking the balance, but I mean, for instance, the lore document just for the demo took 69 pages long to like having it done. I mean, and that's not even counting dialogues. Dialogues are in an entire different software that has its notes and its trees and its whatever, right? But okay, yeah, those 69 pages are nowhere in the game, but they really inform a lot of the game. So that's why I feel like, okay, sure,
And we
a lot
have
of
a
it is
writing
coming.
guide practically.
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of it is done, but is this extra layer that lets the players feel, okay, so this is an entire world. It's not just this small level inside the GZDoom engine. There's more out there, right? But of course, that always ends up in like this abstract layer that is sometimes difficult to relay exactly what is it that I
Well,
have
see,
to
I,
do.
I deal with the abstract stuff too. When the guy goes, "Hey, I need a spinning fan AC model," that's one thing. But when he goes, "Hey, I'm thinking about another monster. I kind of want it to be like a crab, but like a man, but it needs to have a lobster claw, and I want it to have like a really, really unreadable face." That's what I have
Yeah,
to work with. And I
yeah,
just got I just start with a ball, and I'm like, "Is this crabby enough? No, I need,
yeah,
like, can you make it more like a crab? Help! Like, help! Help! I
yeah. But
don't get what's on your mind, man."
no, but that's the beauty of it. I mean, I really
Hmm.
appreciate that in a way because it's for me a way to say I need your help. I need your brain to help me finish this, right?
Hmm.
And that's why it's so fun. I mean, I find it fun to work with Genghis because he
So
has a really clear, a very. I mean, his vision is absolutely clear. He knows what he wants to
the
do.
hard time asking what. He has the hard time
Yeah,
describing it though.
but he sometimes has a bit of a foggy way to relate to the person that's actually going to do it.
Hmm.
So, for instance, he tells me, okay, I need this text, but more beautiful. And
Hmm.
I mean, okay, so I present a whole different ideas, but sometimes a word that is actually really beautiful. I mean, one of the anecdotes is that I proposed instead of whispers, murmur, and he just cracked laughing because he had heard like a wrestling video where a character kept saying murmur, 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 and he just couldn't get rid of the association, so we had to ditch that word, and that's perfectly fine.
That's how
but
it's like with him.
But
man.
that's how it is with him. So, and it's a really entertaining process, and it's a really cool way to work. I mean, I'm pretty sure that efficient it really isn't, but that's one of the perks of being a small team. That the process is way more organic. You can talk things out. You can debate things out. You can nurture.
We should
an
probably
idea.
take this opportunity to probably talk about on Genghis's behalf a little bit and everything. Like part of the reason he didn't even show up here for this thing is like I made a joke about making him a T-shirt one time. You know, like to get him with the Divine Frequency T-shirt. I was like, we're doing this, and there won't be merch, but we're gonna have some of our own, you know, and stuff like that. But he didn't fully understand me, and he was like, no, I've got too much. You know, I've already got too much. If you guys are gonna do merch, you guys do it. And he's like, and I don't even just give me a little cut. I don't want any more work. So every time we talk about posting videos or tweeting or something, he's like so resistant. He doesn't. He stays in his house. He dedicates 100% of his time to this game, and maybe 20 to 30% of it is sleeping, eating, and playing, you know, Apex or something with his friends to unravel, and maybe he goes out on a Sunday. But he spends every waking hour he has developing this game and trying to manage people, and he gets pretty stressed out. He gets pretty stressed out.
His commitment is
He loves
absolute.
it.
I mean, sometimes I see the message like at 2 a.m. saying, okay, when you can pull this off, I need this dialogue. And it's like at 2 a.m. and he's like in the same time zone. So I mean, oh my God, this guy really is working his ass off on this thing.
And on top of everything, he's a super good guy. Like even during development, like he'll ask me if he like overhears something, if I or somebody else, I've personally witnessed this guy send like $150 to somebody who is in trouble that he never met. And just he's done this stuff like a bunch of times. So he's like super based and super cool. I don't know if I'd be able to make a game. There's a lot of other people that I like, but I don't know if I get along with on a true friend level and everything. But honestly, my favorite part about this is coming out of the wet work with Genghis as a friend. He's a real bro. He's a real cool guy.
Genghis
I wish he would have came. I wish he would have come to this. I think he would have liked this. You got some more questions for us? We've been kind of monologuing for a little bit.
You're kind of inadvertently covering a lot of what I was kind of thinking about here, so this is good. Just like it's been a good natural flow to things. Yeah, I think it's funny. I was looking at some of the information online, and I see like some of the influences are like Blood, System Shock 2, Darkest Dungeon, Bloodborne. Those are all games I'm absolutely terrible at. Like,
I never played a Souls game ever. And then I've played this game like 3 times, and he kept recommending Bloodborne all the time. Yeah. So I finally downloaded it because I had the PlayStation Premium, and it was for free on that. And I was like, why do you guys enjoy stuff like this? I can't beat this boss, And then I got like 60, 70% through it and everything, and I was just kind of like, this is the best game I've ever played. So there's a barrier to it. There's a barrier to it. But the good thing is in this game, any of the stuff that's going to remind you of those games, most of those things are going to be optional. Those grindy little boss fights. Like I think if you saw a video of the champion, which I guess this would be a good time in the video or something to show it. But if you saw a video of the champion, it's this fight. Like only 50% of the people we've watched play or stream actually managed to do it. But you can just skip it. Yeah. You can just skip it. You can show that you're a badass, or you can just move on and have fun with the rest of the game. We're not trying to force people who enjoy the slower pace and the horror pace, and then suddenly they have to be great at Dark Souls.
It's
not like that.
True. And I would also like to add that, I mean, sure, those influences can be seen. The influences can be seen, like, of course, I mean, here and a lot of that stuff. But we also have this this constant concern of not going full influence. Like, we don't want to be exactly Bloodborne or exactly Blood or exactly System Shock, right? And I think that awareness is what's led the game into a really interesting spot where it feels fresh and original, despite drinking of so many different sources at the same time. I mean,
it's like trying to make something like stuff that you like, but while dodging everything that is what you like, so you're not a copy.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah. I mean,
it's a
there's a lot of
delicate
tropes.
dance.
Yeah. There's a lot of tropes regarding development, like for instance, the audio log stuff that System Shock innovated with it, and now it's been done to death, and it's becoming like this meme where everything comes in audio logs or everything comes in lore notes. Yeah, sure, we have lore notes, but this is the kind of thing that we're really putting on the end of the player that really wants to find them the lore notes will find them. But if you don't want to like sink your head into a bunch of text that's randomly tossed around, well, there won't be. And also the text is written to make sense where it's being found, because sometimes you find like this text log, I don't know, in a sewer, and it's like this really strangely self-aware journal that is like very weirdly omniscient, and it kind of knows everything that's happening, and it's like you can really feel like it's a developer saying, okay, look, learn about this with this random lore from a dude in a sewer. No, that's something that we're purposely avoiding, for instance, from the writing side, to make it look more coherent with the world, and also to avoid the pitfall of like having exposition dumps.
I wanted to say something. One of the I talk about one of my favorite things, you know, like it was like getting the friend out of it or whatever. But I just got a message yesterday from a new user. Actually, just became a patron, so thank you a lot. Like a lot, you know. The patrons are everything sometimes here. Most times, but when we get these random messages, sometimes I'll just get DMs on Discord, or it'll be out then in a public server somewhere, and they'll just be like, I can't believe this game exists. I've been waiting for this game my whole life. You know, like it reminded me of the way I felt when I played this or whatever and stuff. And that stuff like really puts the tingles on, you know, it really makes you feel like you're doing a good thing. So even when we're lost, we keep getting I'm not bombarded, but once in a while, somebody just comes on strong with that. Hey, you gave my life meaning. And it's like, whoa, you know, but it's also like, oh, you know,
yeah, you get warm and fuzzy with that.
Shucks.
That's
I'm gonna
good
keep
to
going.
hear.
I'm gonna keep doing it. Yeah. So that's
Yeah.
by far one of my favorite parts is that and when we all create something, we're all looking for the feedback and we want the positive feedback. That's why we create something for people. It's, you know, it's the loop. Make something cool, get feedback, make more cool stuff. It's a very addictive, very fun, very satisfying loop to live on.
Yeah, the response has been great. I mean, we have really passionate people on the Discord, and they're like constantly asking questions and poking our minds, and it's been really fun to see, really fun and gratifying to see the effect this experience has had on people. They really appreciate it and see it for what the unique thing we're trying to do.
And I get the occasional "What's wrong with you?" also.
Well,
whenever they see the monsters or the twisted thing, they're like, "What's wrong with you guys?" And I go, "We'll if we sell well on the game, we'll both go to therapy and figure it right out."
Yeah, that's true. But that's the kind of thing that keeps us really motivated to like do the best we can. We've always been doing it, but it really certainly makes it easier to give the extra.
Yeah, I can see why people would be, you know, connecting passionately with it, because it's, you know, I'm just going off the demo, but well, I guess everyone else is as well, pretty much. But it has a really like hardcore sort of vibe to it, you know, in terms of, you know, the difficulty, the atmosphere, the tension. There's just the whole thing is so brutally tense at points, you know, when you're just navigating areas.
It's a thick atmosphere.
Yeah,
but it's very gratifying. It's not just grueling, you know. So I do think it is kind of like it's like a deeply impacting experience. I think if you're a player who connects with things like this, I just think you're gonna fucking love it. I don't see how you couldn't. It's, you know, if you know, if you open yourself up to those kinds of games. But you mentioned the Patreon. I have talked to a few different developers lately who have also been supplementing or funding their game through Patreon. Can you share any kind of insight on what that experience is like? You know, like trying to. It's just an interesting time for independent games where there are things like Patreon that didn't really exist 10, 15 years ago. You know, when a lot of indie games that I started getting into around that time, I don't know how they got made. It's like,
Yeah. I feel you on that. And we had a kind of a weird start with the entire conversation of Patreon. So when we had realized that funding was limited and that we're already putting a lot of our time into this, and funding me is probably one of the bigger expenses in some cases. The monster design really adds up. It's a ton of work. It takes a ton of time. Takes a bunch of my IRL time. And I said, I I've always been resistant to it, but should we maybe start up a Patreon after we, launch this demo? If the attention is appropriate, maybe we can do stuff like that. And he was pretty hard against it, and I wasn't, interested in fighting him on it. But then we got to talk about it a little further, and we decided that it was worth offering some real rewards. Now we knew that some people were fans, so for the very low tiers, you get early access screens. Every Patreon gets early access. And mentions in the credits, the typical stuff that you would add and everything. But one thing I tried to make a big deal out of myself is that on the top tier, we're offering that I'm going to make miniatures of some of the monsters, little 3D little miniatures, and depending on how well things go, maybe even possibly have them painted by a pro. Look actually like in the game, be a great thing to offer for the patrons. But what's been cool about it is that the patrons are obviously the most passionate people. So they're always there for this is great feedback. But uh having patrons, I guess they feel like, not that they buy entitlement, that's a really bad way to put it, but they understand, because of the way we all communicate, how appreciative we are, and they actually bother to give like concise feedback all the time and actually have some ideas. A lot of them get rejected, but sometimes some really good ideas come. So
Yeah.
not only has the Patreon actually been good enough to support about a monster a month to 2 monsters a month for most of the time, but it's actually been a pretty decent idea network as well. And those are actually some of our exposures, the people who put some of their money that they obviously work for or earn into this game to help it go, they're motivating it. So it's really weird that I expected it to feel like I was taking people's money for nothing, and just on promises. I say for nothing, but on promises that this is going to be made. But it really just ended up being kind of a little community of its own, where it's like now everyone is trying to make the game. So that's been actually a really good experience. Very different from what I was expecting, because it felt like, oh, please give me money. I don't love my project enough, so I can't afford to make it. It felt like that, but the patrons themselves go a long way of making sure, no, please take my money. This is amazing. I want it out right now. Finish it. They're throwing money at you because they want it done.
Yeah, they
And
can
that's
really
pretty cool.
see a lot of value in what's already there, and I don't not just mean like physical value, like the software that's being made, but the value of the experience, because you can tell. I mean, we have a specific Patreon channel where we are a bit more active, because I mean there's a lot of people on Discord. There's like 500 people there, but usually the lore questions and like the ideas of how the writing is done, at least from my side, they're the kind of things that actually put in motion certain stuff that say, yeah, maybe we should cover this, maybe, because they're the ones that really pay attention. They're the ones that have played the demo like 10 times in a row. They're the people that really, really drink this deep. So
almost better than a playtester in some cases.
yeah, exactly. Because I mean, there's the whatever, the misaligned texture or whatever, but like to presenting questions like, okay, so why when I pick this item up, it sounds like this, or what happened? Even some of them come and tell me, but in the mod it was this. Why is it now this? Right? And there is still an explanation. There's a lore background for that, and it becomes really engaging to interact with them, because they're people that are really, really invested, not just with their money, but also with their taste, with their minds, with everything. I mean, they're really passionate people, and like Clay says, it's become this really wonderful community of people that are really, really committed to seeing this done. I mean, they're putting the money where
One
the
of
mouth
the
is.
things I think I forgot to answer, because you were asking like, how can we be found? We finally got the search engine optimization, thanks to Hellforge Studios. I know that I don't pretend to know what's involved, but they got that. So if you just Google Divine Frequency, it will be the first result. It'll take you to the Steam link. You can see all that. You can also find our Discord. I'm assuming that you'll want to link it in the video and everything. You can find our Discord there, and our Patreon will be linked there in a channel called Links to various places, the YouTube channel, the Twitter, and stuff like that, and the Patreon's on there. So if people did want to support, I already love you.
Yeah, I mean,
and I'm working my ass off. We're all working our ass off.
Yeah, you're the best.
So there you have it. That was my interview with some of the development team for Divine Frequency. Like we said, there are links down below if you want to learn more about the game, check out their Patreon, get on their Discord. I highly recommend this game. I don't mean to, hype it up too much. I know it's just a demo, the game's not out yet, but the atmosphere is so strong and the gameplay was very engaging and challenging in a way where I was just hooked, and I think a lot of people are going to like this game quite a bit. I think it's going to really tap into a certain sort of niche audience that is looking for this very particular type of horror and action gameplay that this game delivers. So thanks to everyone on Patreon who supports this channel. You can see their names here or here, depending on where I put them in the video. If you want to help Hidden Machine do what it does, even a bunk a month? Sure, even a bunk a month goes a long way to hooking us up and helping the channel grow. So, I don't know, man. This was really cool for me. Hopefully it was cool for you. Trying to do more developer interviews, try to talk to the people who make the things I love and see how and why they do the thing. Does that make sense? I'm into it. Hopefully you're into it. And I'll see you in the next video. Peace.